something with the website or something.
I looked like I needed help for sure.
So, yep. And then what happened? You came to the flat and saw it, right?
Yeah.
Or what,
So we set a meeting,
Yeah.
and at first I really didn't take it that serious, but then eventually I hit you up. We set a meeting with your web developer at the time, and this is where everything in my life changed.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was making the decision to start painting at the time, but then you just mentioned that, and I don't, however we ended up meeting that day, I walk in, I see this Jimi Hendrix painting, and I was just fucking floored, like this mess up close, and you step back, and it felt alive.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps
Yeah.
thinking about that moment, because imagine seeing a work of art that just changes your life forever. Hey everyone, welcome to the Paint Method. I am David Garibaldi, and today's conversation is with someone that I can easily say I would not be not only where I am, but I would not be who I am without him. I think some titles that we gave him was definitely father, entrepreneur, and volunteer for some reason. But he's one of these people that I've known for well over a decade. I mean, since the beginning of my career, and I'm still learning so much from him. He has a ton of entrepreneurial business insight, but also balances that with seeing the potential in people like myself who were at the time a diamond in the rough, but really helps you see what it takes to become that diamond. So I'm happy to introduce my good longtime friend, Kevin Costa. Let's go. We are all on our paint journey, but where are we now? And where do we go next? This is how. Passion, action, intent, new, teach. This is the Paint Method.
Some sort of partnership with like Nike or New Balance, and they make these sick clothing, right?
Yeah.
With their M on there. And he's like, yeah, check out these Air Jordans that just came out or whatever with Molbon, or this New Balance shoe, golf shoe, or the shirt. And it all looks great. It's like, it's not that preppy looking, stuff like this when you have to golf. But he's like, you got to go to the website when it comes out, otherwise it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
So he sends it to me, so I add it to the cart, and then when I get back to go pay for it, it's already gone.
Yeah.
And you wonder, like, you just sold, what, 100 or 1,000 or 10,000? Like,
doesn't matter. It's
gone.
Sold out.
Sold out. Everything's sold out on the thing. And so you sit there and wait, and you're like, shit. You can't have
exclusivity is the creator's best friend.
Yeah.
Like, one, as an artist, like when you create an original, you know this, we know of artists that pass, and I think once you realize there will never be any more. So in a lifetime now, I'm going to create as much as I can.
Yeah.
And, but also what we produce, whether it's 10 of these things on the wall or less or 100, I think is, the weird thing is when there's like a big brand like Nike and they sell out, they have the capacity to make hundreds of thousands of, not millions of products.
Yeah. But with this license, this company that's partnering with them, you don't know if it's 100 or 1,000, but you assume that there's 1,000 or 10,000 and they're all gone.
Yeah. Now, we've been having these conversations for, I think we're going on 18 years now.
When you were 20, right?
We met in 2003. I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And people that are watching or listening to this, I don't think they really know or understand that if it wasn't for you,
mm-hmm.
I don't think I would be the artist that I am today.
Yep. Yeah,
there's very few people that can say that.
Yeah, I think that's anybody that's successful. They somewhere in their life, they meet somebody, and that somebody either triggers something in their brain, introduces them to somebody. Could be your mom or whatever, but there's all these little things that happen in your life, and certain people take advantage of those things and make the best of them. And you can look back in your life at some of those uh, things that happen that change your life. And yeah, that's probably our relationship a little bit.
Is that something you do intentionally with people in general, or do you just you see something, you share it, and you're like, do what you want with it? I don't expect anything after that.
Oh yeah, there's no intention. I think I'm a kind of a serial entrepreneur, so I've always been kind of interested in a lot of different things. So, and then really, like, it isn't until you get older that you realize that, oh, maybe I did help somebody, because a lot of times you're working, and a lot of times it pays off more for yourself. And then you see people like yourself, you're like, oh wow, yeah, he's successful. How you determine success, but did I introduce them to something? Yeah, it worked out great. Have I done that before to other people? Yeah, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah. So,
So
I mean, you just mentioned a little breadcrumb. You are a serial entrepreneur
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
I would agree with that. You're a father.
yep.
Any other title that sits well with you, or not?
Uh, Another title. I don't. After you have kids, I don't. I mean, and being older with young kids, titles are nothing. I mean, I think father is pretty much the paramount.
Yeah.
Once you hit that, yeah, I don't think so. I think volunteer.
I love. All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Entrepreneur,
yep,
or we'll do father, entrepreneur,
yeah,
volunteer.
yeah,
Yeah. Like, I think, from an entrepreneurial perspective,
yeah,
whether you've got to go clean the toilet,
yeah,
or you're picking up trash, or we're off Broadway, so we've
yeah.
got to scoop up some, we don't know if it's human or animal,
You don't want to know,
but
probably.
guess what? I'm
Yeah,
putting the gloves on. I'm
yeah,
cleaning
yeah,
it up.
yeah.
And so I think that's fitting. Now, we met originally in 2003. I was 20, and I know a little bit about your
Yep.
background, but I'm just curious, like, what led up to when we finally met? Like, what was that life like before then?
Ooh, I think uh, she's 30. I think I had just gotten away from working with family. We had a software company. My stepdad designed software. My mom retired. We traveled the United States, a little bit outside, and I think, was getting away from working with the family because of the stress. Even though everybody was entrepreneurial, it just wasn't like a healthy working environment. So I was about ready to get out of that industry, or working with the family, and branch out into like development, real estate. I was tired of traveling. You know, most all the acquaintances or friends I had in a business relationship were Chicago, New York, Houston. I mean, we're all out of state, so I came home and it was kind of boring. And I didn't have kids or anything. So once I decided, I'd been everywhere and seen it, realized I didn't have to move. I could travel. And I think when you're young and you grow up in a small town or Sacramento, you feel like you're missing out. If you have that opportunity to go and see a lot of different places whenever or whatever you want and stay for a while, you realize you don't necessarily have to move to experience that. So
Yeah.
I was able to figure that out in my 20s. So by the time I was 30, I was tired of traveling, and then got into another industry, which allowed me to always think back when I used to travel. I used to carry like a computer or a big old Dell laptop. And then when I'd go places with my friends that were working locally, when they traveled, they didn't bring shit.
Yeah.
They were traveling to have fun. We didn't have little phones.
Imagine having to lug paint around when
Yeah,
you travel.
exactly. Same thing. So
Not as fun.
yeah. So once I stopped doing traveling and working with the family, and worked locally, and started to accumulate some cash and money and stuff and traveling for fun, I thought, okay, this is great. Now I can go to all these places, not working, and enjoy them in a different way. Which is, like when I took you to New York, I was still in the family business.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. But during that time, so 2003 was like pre 2008, which we all know there was a real estate recession,
Yeah.
economic collapse.
Yeah.
But in Sacramento at that time, things were booming.
Yeah.
I mean, real estate was going way up.
Yep.
It was on its way up. And nightlife wise, like people were out
Yep.
enjoying time. And that thought about Sacramento is when you feel like you're missing out, this is a great place to create what didn't exist.
Sure.
And people were doing opening restaurants. When I started painting, I started at these local jazz clubs and nightclubs.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I met this DJ and he brought me to this place.
Was it spaghetti or ravioli?
Oh, you talking about rigatoni?
Oh, the rigatoni. I knew it was some sort
It
of
was
pasta.
so DJ Rigatoni was one of them, but
Yeah.
also Jake Esparza.
Okay,
Jake
yeah, yeah.
Esparza was the other. He brought me to K Bar. Now, I can say this now because at the time I was still 20.
Yeah.
And I was underage. We got to know. I wasn't drinking. But I was painting. And do you remember that night when we met?
Oh yeah.
Like, what was your perspective when you saw me in the corner, not performing? I was painting live,
Mhm.
but what was going through your head at that time?
Well, I think I was trying to figure out what you were painting, and that was my first investment in a bar, and it was with Perry Gary, Randy.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And it was great. He gave me an opportunity and a bunch of other kids. And I was watching you, but I had already met Denny Dent 15 years before, 10 years before.
And who's Denny Dent?
Denny
People
Dent
that
was,
may not know who he is.
oh, he was a performance painter. So I met him in New Orleans when I was like 16, 17, doing live. He was actually painting in a Miller Brewing booth at I think it was a grocery convention. So you had everything in a grocery store with these giant booth setups, and Miller paid him to paint. So there
and
was
you
a
were there
stage.
because of your family business.
My mom was in the grocery industry. She worked under Tom Rayleigh and Rayleigh's, and for the California Grocers Association. So they did these annual conventions and traveled to other conventions to find new products to go in grocery stores.
And I pointed that out because this paint method
Yep.
podcast is about finding out where you are in your journey and creating where you go next.
Mhm.
But part of also where we end up is a collision of things that we didn't expect them to be factors in our journey.
Yeah.
When your family, being in the grocery business, being at that place, seeing Denny Dent, ultimately affected someone else's journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you saw Denny Dent.
Yep.
Did you met him?
Met him. Met the guy that was helping him. Denny didn't really like to talk to people. You can tell he came across as like a Keith Richards type, just like he looked burnt out, very like slobbery when he was talking, kind of like Gene Simmons on stage. Very,
He's a rock star.
Yeah, rock star. He came across as a rock star artist, and they didn't want to talk price or nothing. They just said, "Hey, he doesn't want. He's going to paint. He's going to go back there. What do you want?" I think I bought a Jim Morrison and a Jimi Hendrix. I don't remember how I paid. I don't, maybe a credit card or something, but they rolled them up and sent them to me on paper.
Wow.
Yep, for $700, I think.
Yeah.
For both of them. Yep.
So you had that experience. You're like, this was your introduction to live art, and
Yeah.
actually probably everyone's, because those people that don't know, Denny Dent was the first rock and roll painter. Like there was some performance painters, some speed painters, but he was a rock star.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have this experience. So then you see this kid. I had just shaved my head too, by the way.
Yeah.
Just before that.
Yeah, hanging out in this bar. Like now this is 10, 15 years later. I already had these paintings framed in I think I was living off of 45th.
15
41st.
years after that.
Yeah, 10 to 15 years
Yeah.
after that, yeah. It's got to be 15, yeah. So I had, these paintings framed. What are they, 4 foot by 5 foot or something?
Oh, they're 6 feet by 5 feet roughly, yeah.
So I had these framed in my flat on 41st. And I think, so I saw you painting, and I remember saying, "Hey, man, you got to check something out."
So it was super loud. This is what I remember. It was super loud in the club, and you're like, "Hey, man, have you heard of Denny Dent?" And I looked at you, and people would usually come up to me like, "Have you heard of this artist?"
Yeah.
And honestly, at the time, it was just another like random artist someone trying to tell me about, and I was like, "Nope," but cool, bro. I just gave you a thumbs up.
Yep.
Went back to painting. You're like, "No, you should check it out." Like you were persistent.
Yeah.
It felt like it. At least that's what I recall. And then I think you said something about, do you have a website, or, I know a guy that can help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you handed me your card.
Okay. I had a card. Yeah.
I think you had it. Yeah, because that's how I
Yeah.
got your
It
number.
makes sense. Yeah.
Some or I don't
Yeah.
know.
So yeah,
Maybe
and
you wrote it with lipstick on a napkin
it
for
may
me.
have been. Yep. And yeah, we were in. We had a software company, so I was in the web type of stuff, and I knew you needed help, something with the
I
website or
looked I
something. Yeah.
looked like I needed help
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So, yep. And then what happened? You came to the flat and saw it, right? Or
Yeah,
what? So
so
how do you
we
remember?
set a meeting,
Yeah.
and at first I really didn't take it that serious, but then eventually I hit you up. We set a meeting with your web developer at the time, and this is where everything in my life changed.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was making the decision to start painting at the time, but then you just mentioned that, and I don't, however we ended up meeting that day. I walk in, I see this Jimi Hendrix painting,
Yep.
and I was just fucking floored, like this mess up close. And you step back, and it felt alive.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps
Yeah.
thinking about that moment, because imagine seeing a work of art that just changes your
Yeah.
life forever. And it's
Yeah.
rare that that happens,
Yeah.
but we
Exactly.
go in, and we were like meeting about the website. I'm just
Yeah.
staring at this thing across
Yeah.
the room. You're like, yeah, that's that Danny Dent guy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta try this shit.
And I think at that time we were able to go on his website.
Yes.
I don't remember if there was video at the time. Probably not.
There was one promo video.
Okay.
And it had like this like really dramatic orchestra playing. And so the internet was not like popping at the
Yeah.
time. So we hadn't just been seeing stuff,
Yeah.
like how TikTok is now, and Instagram.
Yeah.
So I was like just visually blown away by what I was seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way I felt when I first saw him perform. It was like unreal. It was like basically you felt like you were seeing the artist who's actually playing the music, but something completely different.
Yeah.
And,
I saw that, and literally the next day
Yeah.
or so, I was in my garage,
Yeah.
throwing paint around, and so as much as happened, up until now, I really credit you for that moment. Just to mention it, seeing me, you could have just passed by it, but and that's why I asked you earlier, is that something that you do, where you see a potential in a situation, and at least mention it to people? Because I'm assuming that lends help in the entrepreneurial world, or like whatever
Sure.
business or investment that you're working on.
Yeah.
So during that time, I kind of went off, did my thing. You continued on building your different businesses.
Yep.
But as creators and entrepreneurs, we all experience times where there's a crash. There's like an oh shit moment where most of the time we're trying to just put band-aids on stuff, scotch tape on holes in the boat. But then there's like, the 2008, 2009. What do you, I guess, how do you work through a moment like that when business is connected to the economy in that way, and it's out of your control?
You have to make a decision. So that, which I thought was going to be the worst, there was about a year where it was kind of bad with everything crashing, but it's, you look back on other people's experience in life, and you realize that's when you're made. Like, that was the best thing that ever happened in my life. Being in development, losing money, working with people that weren't ethically connected, or you realize that's when you dig in, and that's when you go to work. And
Did you realize that then, or did you look back on that?
No, I realized, because I made a conscious decision to separate from people I was working with because of the decisions they were making, and had an opportunity to help the people that were being misrepresented, not knowing what was going to happen, and but realizing there was an opportunity, and being able to help the people that were misrepresented and pick myself back up. I would say after 12 months, it couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
Like, it was 12 months of not knowing, questioning, uncertainty, and then the light shines brighter than it, and then it was just straight, you know, uphill, roses and champagne and yeah,
I mean, that knowing that you have that ability to move forward, you're
yeah,
right, comes in that moment where you have to make sort of a line in the sand or draw the line where
yeah,
it's like, we're either going to react and retreat
yeah,
and, figure something else out, or we've got to learn from this and
yeah,
wake something up in
yeah,
us.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and that's been, you know, that helped me get through, something else that happened maybe 3 years ago. But you realize that, you're going to go through stuff, and it's really how you deal with it that's going to determine. Somebody told me, I think your aptitude and your attitude determine your altitude. And so when things go bad, or you're looking at things and you're not sure, how to respond, you just think like that.
I mean, outside of reacting to, those situations that are out of your control, and then sort of like developing skill sets to get through it, and
Hmm.
and taking risk on things, is there any other intent or purpose that has helped you along the way, or do you keep it pretty like black and white, like, look, here's the numbers, I'm going to make a decision on this, or is there like a greater thing that has helped guide you along the way?
No, I'm pretty much driven by numbers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to make, if it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to take a huge risk. I can see where, like, introducing you or other people to opportunities where if they're really, really willing to work, anything's possible. I've gotten to the point now where I can invest in things as long as I have some sort of control or input on how the finances are dealt with. I'll make those decisions, only because now I've already seen corruption. I've seen people that misrepresent, or that their intentions are different. If they're younger, I've noticed people, their intentions are, hey, I can get in here and I can make this and that. A perfect example is uh, there's a small golf course out in Loomis right now for sale. It's a 9-hole golf course. They want, a bunch of money. And I'm thinking, wow, this is interesting. It's too much, but, maybe we can buy it, right? Maybe we can buy it. Doesn't make any sense financially. Doesn't produce enough income. Maybe make 2% on your money, which is doesn't make any sense. But I put a little ad on. I don't do much social media, but I put something on Facebook and said, as a community, does anybody out here want to buy this golf course, keep it a golf course before the developers come in and do it?
Yeah.
And what do you know? 400 people are in.
No way.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah. So, and I'm like looking at this, just happened this weekend. And I'm like, cool. Wow. I might be able to make this happen. Like, not only can I bring in the community, but a couple other investors, negotiate I mean, who knows? But now it's possible.
So part
Yeah.
of that decision then was affected by a greater good, as in,
Yeah.
everyone can be a part of this. That like
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
that became the
As opposed to
intent.
people are like, hey, we can do this, or they don't have to have voting rights, or, you can get equity and not put any money in it. And I go, yeah, I don't, when I was younger, I may have looked at those opportunities as how I can get something from working real hard. Now I'm like, I don't honestly care if I get anything, but if the community can keep the golf course, and and I walk away, and I'm gonna eat, my kids are gonna go to school in this community, why not?
Are you familiar with DAOs in the crypto world? So
No.
uh, I'll have to have Ray look up the actual what that acronym stands for,
Uh-huh.
but it's something about an automated organization.
Mm.
And someone's probably going to correct me online about this, but from what I know, is it's a group of people that are, get together and sort of create like a wallet for this organization.
Yep.
And it's some people get voting rights and so on, but there's
Yeah.
there's one happening right now, a DAO that was developed to buy a golf course.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm pretty sure they bought the golf course, but with like going forward into the future with Web3, with what little I
Yeah.
know about it, with decentralized,
Mhm.
cryptocurrencies,
NFTs,
it,
all that stuff. Yeah.
in those situations
Yeah.
where, say, hey, you or a handful of investors don't want to take the ultimate risk on this.
Yeah.
but we can open this up to a community,
Yep.
and they send their investment in.
Yep.
It goes into a community wallet.
Yep.
I guess I don't know how much you know about crypto or not, but
Mm-hmm.
what how much do you think that'll shake things up from like a traditional investment standpoint, and knowing that there's a DAO out there that's going to go buy a piece of land and
Mm-hmm.
possibly develop it? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know what a DAO is. I mean, I think, you know, at least if you're looking at land and entitlements and development and that type of stuff, if you don't have the right people, uh, I mean, use Zillow for example. They ran an algorithm to buy houses, and now they're dumping everything at a huge loss.
Yeah.
Why? Because those assets probably weren't inspected. Those assets that they bought for X, they didn't realize they needed, a lot more money than their algorithm told them that it was worth.
It's like the cash. Here's cash unseen.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll take it.
You'll take it because, we say it's worth X and we're going to buy it at Y, but really it probably was worth, G or whatever. So now they're left with all these assets that are devalued, and now you have hedge funds buying them out and private people buying them out. I've got friends that are buying them and working on them. So how you take, if cryptocurrency is like money, how you take that money and buy an asset, you could overpay for it and not have that great of a return, and do those type of things. But I think as long as it's an investment and an asset, you want the most, somebody with the most experience. So in other words, if I end up getting this or providing a service or whatever, getting this land or this golf course, whatever, I'm going to bring in a business broker who's going to understand that there's 3 different types of revenue streams, and you can look at it at its evaluation, and bring in like somebody that has golf course experience in managing them, saying, hey, you better look at irrigation and water and the turf and all these different things. So if we do negotiate the purchase, or if we do buy it, we're not like shocked by 200 grand we have to spend in a year or two.
Yeah.
So in doing that, raising this money and buying these things, yeah, it sounds great, but what's behind the onion? As you peel it back, that's great, you bought it, but do you have to dump all this money into it after you close?
Yeah.
And I've never known anybody to make, like, you watch Winchester or any of these golf courses that people built, they turn hands 3 or 4 times. Dark Horse sold for a few $1 million. Auburn Country Club is in foreclosure for like $3 million.
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge.
It's almost like a vineyard. You know how like it
Yep.
sounds sexy
Yeah,
to
yeah,
own a winery,
Yeah.
and then you get into it. What little I know
Yeah,
is just there's so many things that are out of your control.
exactly.
And then you grow this vine for so many years, and then it doesn't taste good, or
Yeah.
you're not doing something right in the process that affects
Yeah.
it. So, with those type of investments, for sure, I mean, you've got to bring in an expert,
Yeah.
or several to
Yeah,
give
and
you a
that's
heads
why I
up
might,
before.
what I'm doing, which might make great sense as a community, not as an individual trying to make money.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I'm a little bit different, where I'm not doing it to make money, but it'd be fun.
Well, that particular project.
Yeah, that particular project. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
No, I've always been, I always sort of like tap into you for, these type of talks, just learning more. I know there's so much that I don't know that I definitely have to check in with you about. But, as years were going on, from when we initially connected, we had some opportunities to travel together. I was like, hey man, I'm going to this place. Like, you got to come along.
Yeah.
And
my biggest regret was not going to see Sting with you in France.
That's right. So I had an extra ticket. I had a show in Paris for this large organization, and I was like, "Hey man, they're flying 3 of us out.
Yeah.
You got to come." And
First
I don't
class,
think I don't know if I knew that Sting was going to be there or not, but I just said,
you told me.
Okay,
you told me
I
Sting.
said, Sting is going to be here.
Yeah, I'm
have to
opening
come.
for Sting. I was like, oh man.
But that was one of the coolest trips. So quick story, backstage before the show, we're sharing like a dressing room area with Sting. And he knew that I was there to paint him.
Yep.
We had met, so I went over there, introduced myself, and Dave, who's my tour manager, he's
Yeah.
been my tour manager for many years. He looks over at Sting. He's like, "Oh, look, he's over there." So Sting had his like lyrics on a page, and it was on the ironing board.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave's like, "Watch this." He's like, "Hey, man, so times are tough. You got to iron your clothes for the whole band too." And Sting looks at him like he really didn't like. Do you know who the fuck you're talking to?
Yeah.
And I just looked at Dave like, "Don't do that anymore. No, don't do that." Yeah. And so, anyways, I go introduce myself and I say, "Hey, I'm gonna paint your portrait on stage." He's like, "Oh, great." We talk about it. He's like, "Well, hopefully the next time I see you isn't in court." And I'm like, "What kind of Sting jokes are these?" Like he was trying to make a joke, but I was like, you enjoy the show. I'll see you afterwards. But I ended up performing before he came on stage, opened up for him, and then he came on stage after the first song. He had this epic intro. Looks up at the portrait and he gives me a shout out. He's like, "Hey guys, make some noise for Garibaldi."
Oh, that's cool.
He made me look good in the portrait. So I was like, thank God he wasn't upset.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Sting in court.
Yeah.
So that's good.
That's good, man. Yeah.
But another one you did come to was New York City.
Yep.
Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. There's so many more trips I want to take you on because I just feel like, one, I just enjoy hanging out with you.
Yeah.
But I like that one in particular. I just wanted to show you, look, man, like that little idea that you just planted.
Yeah.
Look, this is one of the places that it grew to and took me to. That was why we also did a trip to Hawaii.
Oh,
when I was like first starting.
Yeah.
That was a fun trip.
And
too.
we did New York. Remember? Because you got your gig with Scribble.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's how that whole New York thing.
Man, that's another crazy story.
Yeah.
So, not only did you introduce me to the work of Denny Dent,
yes,
and I had started going off crazy. This is another. I can't believe I forgot this.
Yeah.
Is
your first.
You had called me and said, "Hey, there's this art expo going on in New York City. We have access to it. I think you should go." My first response was, "I can't afford anything right now, let alone a ticket to New York City." So I don't know if you remember this, but you were like, "Look, I'll cover your costs.
Yeah.
You got to pay me back.
Yep.
And but you should be there." And so I just kind of ran the numbers and I was like, "I'll figure this out.
Yep.
I got to pay him back." So you fly me out to New York. And that was my first time there.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's incredible, huh?
I know everyone
World
knows
Trade
this.
Center was still there.
No. It was this was 2005-ish.
Oh, okay.
This is 2005. Okay. Yeah.
I'd been going there for years then, I guess.
But still, it was still fresh. I mean, only 5 years. Yeah. The world had changed. And I just remember I'm a Sacramento boy through and through. You were raised here, grew up here. And it just, that city, there was something about it being there. I really felt like I'm going to make the most out of this. I'm going to make it somehow.
Yeah.
And what were you doing there? Why was that? Why did you have the connection?
Family business. So we had a software company. The company was called stinkinbadges.com, which is really interesting, but we designed software for conventions. So if you ever go to a convention and got a badge, we were the people that produced them, barcoded you, gave you the lead retrieval systems in the booth. And so I forget the name, Javits Center?
Yeah, Javits Center.
Javits Center. We had a big convention there, probably, 20, 30,000 people there. And we'd go probably there 2 or 3 times a year. And I'd, jump into these different conventions that were going on. And I knew there was an art expo. And I knew that, it was an opportunity for you. So we had rooms and stuff, and I don't know if you crashed with me or we had an extra room.
I crashed in on one of the couch beds in that suite.
Yeah. I think we were at the Roosevelt over on 45th and Madison or something. But so we would walk. I remember I'd walk by, I think Jon Stewart's show or something on the way, and walk different routes all the time in New York. But so you came and crashed. You did that. You did your thing, and then I think at the end you didn't fly home. You got on somebody's tour bus and went to Boston. And
so what happened was before I went to New York, because I wanted to make the most out of this. So I had my fine art going. I knew I was going to go there, try to convince a publisher to publish me. And then also I had the performance stuff going. So I thought I'm going to reach out to agents in New York. I was on Google, on Yahoo, trying to find agents in New York City. One of the guys I found, Johnny Maroney, we got on the phone. He thought I was interesting enough. He's like, you know what? When you get to the city, come by the office. He had this like New York energy. So one of the days I went and stopped by the office. Maybe it was the second day we were there. So I flew out there with my equipment. I had these 2 snowboard bags. I don't know if you remember this. I had like a PVC pipe set up in one. I had canvas in the other and some brushes, some materials. And I went to a meeting at his office, not with the bags yet. So we're sitting there talking about, what I want to do, this vision I have for performance painting. And he booked a lot of DJs. One of them was DJ Scribble. So at the time too, early 2000s, Scribble was the biggest DJ. He was on MTV. So we're meeting. He's like, hold that thought. Takes a phone call. He's like, yep. I'm here with this painter, this artist. Oh, yeah. Shakes his head. Looks at me and said, you want to go to Boston tonight? With DJ Scribble? Yeah. All right, cool. He's in. I'll give him the address. That was it. It was another moment like, figure this shit out. Never been to New York. I just learned how to hail a cab. I got hustled. I don't know if you remember this. I got hustled from a cab driver, from the airport to the hotel. He took a scenic route. Charged me. Charged me for the scenic route. So I figured it out. I got out to Scribble's place outside the city. We get in this van, this like kind of sprinter van style thing, and we go to Boston for the night. Perform with him at the Roxy. When we get back to the city, the driver drops him off straight at the airport. He has a show that night. So I'm sitting there thinking, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to go from like show to show, be tired like
wear the
this.
same clothes.
But I don't know if you remember this too. The next day or so, you were like kind of looking at your watch, like, hey man, time's ticking. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you getting out of this? And I really hadn't made any moves yet. So I remember it was the last day, and upstairs was all the galleries. And downstairs were like the publishers, the wholesalers. I don't really know much about that business, but I went to work that last day. Took my little pamphlets down there, started handing them out, and sure enough, there was 2 publishers that were very interested, and they came back, and I had a deal. Which was wild.
Next thing your stuff was in like Z Gallery or something.
Yeah, they were in poster stores around the country. And so, again, going back to like, you had this way to like put this little idea in my head, and I just ran with it, like every single thing. And we were joking around at my birthday party recently. I was naming off the things. I mean, man, you brought me performance painting, the publishing deal. You introduced me to the love of my life. Chadi. Yes. I was like, what you got next? Like, you need help on that golf course?
No kidding. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's cool. I mean, but you seize on opportunity. I do the same thing. Not everybody does that. Like, there's so many gifted people out there. You meet them all the time. It's like, do they get off the couch? Do they take a step? Do they make a call? Not a lot of people do that. I'd say 1 out of none. You know what I'm saying?
One of my biggest frustrations with artists in general, and I don't mind sharing this because that's the point of this podcast, is to draw the line, where what I know it works and also things don't do that. But one of the things that works is you've got to put yourself out there, even knowing that you're not going to get the response that you initially wanted. Getting a no is not the end of the world.
No, it's the beginning.
It's the beginning, but there's so much fear leading up to it to not act. And people who are doing business every day, that's just normal business. People getting into the art business every day, they want it to feel good. It doesn't always feel good. It's not always romantic. But I got 30 no's during that art expo. All I needed was 1 yes.
Yep.
and I kept going. And I think that was the very last one that I had approached. I got that yes. I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
seal this.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the way everything is in life. I mean, not for the. I mean, everybody's geared differently. Some people just want to, go to work and get their check and go home, and they have their routine, and that's great. That's what makes everybody different. There's different stuff going on in different heads, and if everybody was an entrepreneur or liked to take chances or risks, we'd be out there anarchy on the streets, right?
Yeah,
So,
we
but
would all be, rolling in it, but
yeah,
it takes work.
yeah,
So, I mean, you've had numerous successful companies.
hmm
I'm assuming more gains than losses. I'm
yeah.
sure
At
there's
this
a fair
point, yeah,
share. Yeah.
yeah.
And so you found a method yet to how you decide to go into an investment, or is it still again we just like a straight numbers
Well,
thing?
now, yeah. So when you're younger, you don't know as much, so you take more risks and you lose more. And after you lose, you come back and you've learned from your losses, and now you make more um, smarter decisions based off of numbers. So I mean, what did I do this year? In the last year, I bought an airplane hangar. Thought I was going to keep it. Partner wanted to do something else. Sold it. Got profit, but never had it done an airplane hangar. That was kind of interesting. Hired mechanics and stuff. Um, Started a security company. We got
Not a
armed
bad
and
time.
oh yeah, exactly. I mean, you armed and unarmed. I got smart people running it, a lot smarter than me. But now I'm in a situation where I can buy things
Yeah.
and put the right people in. Step back, evaluate on a monthly basis, tweak, and so it doesn't interfere with my time with my kids. So as long as I'm able to do that, if it looks like it's going to nosedive, then I can get out. But normally it's everything I'm doing is going to either show some sort of positive result in the first quarter, or I'm not at this age. It's not worth it. I don't need to take that type of risk, but I can
Yeah.
take the other risk where it can, multiply and maybe sell or do some different things. But um, as far as from a profitability, yeah, it starts with numbers
Yeah.
and probably ends with numbers too.
In the paint method,
Yeah,
part of the part of it is these new situations
yeah,
that kind of help us grow. It could either be onset from things out of our control,
yeah.
or it can be self-inflicted, where
Yeah.
we either put our body through a transformation, we put our minds,
Mm-hmm.
put our whatever families. Have you had any sort of self-inflicted new situations you put on yourself to help you grow?
Wow. I mean, self-inflicted stuff. I think the hardest thing I went through, which I thought was going to be the recession, was becoming a single parent. I wasn't married, but going through or being forced not to see your kids 100% was probably the most difficult thing. 10 times that of the recession. The recession was, you know, different. It only dealt with money and ego and self-esteem. But when you have children and you have to go through a separation and not having control and not being able to see your kids when you've got the time to do it, uh, that was probably the hardest thing. So, but what I didn't realize what was going to happen is uh, it forced me to have time to myself. And in that time, I've done all these projects now because even though I'm every day I go to some sort of sporting thing with my kid, whether it's practice or a game or something, and volunteer on the days I don't have them, so I can still see my kids 7 to 8 days a week. Um, there's 24 hours in a day, and I got all this time. So I've done all these projects in the last 2 years. Starting companies, investing here, being involved, and where I probably wouldn't have. I always made up excuses uh, of just not working because working was taking time away from the kids or my time. But the kids are also getting older and in school.
So you found a
Yeah,
balance. You
found
found a balance,
found a
but that
balance.
took
And
time.
yeah, I mean, you figure I've been single dad for almost 2.5 years. The first year is probably pretty rough. Second year, so I'm still going through that balance,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to get a little more difficult once the kids are both in extracurricular activities. But I also realize next year both my kids will be in the same school, and there's a big gap during the day of not only during that time as being healthy and making the right decisions and making sure I'm capable, but then using that time to either help people, volunteer, or do side projects.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, the kids on my end as well has like really got my ass in gear.
yeah,
So like we do these things during the day while the kids are at school.
yep, exactly.
And I think having more limited
Yeah.
time, I've become more just better managing the time and
Mm-hmm.
just putting more pressure, but also learning how to delegate better as
Yeah,
well. I mean, there's definitely an art to that, but uh, I would definitely agree with you. Finding the balance was a struggle for most of
yeah,
my life,
yeah,
especially having kids, a failed marriage at one
yeah,
point, and knowing that I had to make a stance at some point saying I can't keep going on like this. I can't keep just putting work first and the
yeah,
family gets the scraps.
yeah.
Uh, and once I did that, I feel like I've had more success per se because I'm getting more
Yeah.
done in a shorter amount of time.
So let me ask you this: do you think because of those decisions earlier on, do you look back and go, well, maybe I could have done things different and it could have been different, or do you think everything happens for a reason? I mean, I look at that too on a personal level and think, well, are there things I could have done to maybe I mean, it takes two, but uh, are there decisions I could have made to prevent the inevitable, which is
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I,
yeah,
I if I look back and I didn't think I could be better, I'm losing
yeah,
already.
exactly, yeah,
So there's a ton of things that I should have done different and
yeah,
better.
yeah,
As a partner, as a
yeah,
parent, as everything
mm-hmm,
else, even to my team.
yeah,
I was building in my 20s, and then all that happened in my 30s, and I
mm-hmm,
was probably enjoying my 30s too much. I'm 39 now, so I'm finally at the end of it.
yeah,
But I lacked a lot of self discipline outside of the routine of creating.
mm-hmm,
And so there's two things. One, I would never have changed the amount of time that I needed to invest to create momentum for
yeah,
life.
yeah,
Uh, but I should have done a better job finding that balance earlier. But either way, I accept it, and I think that my girlfriend now is a much better version of me from knowing that I need to learn from those mistakes. I need to find better balance.
yeah,
And her and I, we talk about that all the time. Being a single parent is tough when
mm-hmm,
you're the sole parent that takes care of kids, whether it's 50% of the time
mm,
or 100% of the time,
yeah,
while trying to pursue, personal passions,
yeah,
dreams, health,
mm-hmm,
and so on.
yeah. Yeah, I think it is, especially the younger generation. I see that a lot with, because I'm older, I'm 51. I have my oldest is almost 7, so I didn't have kids until my 40s.
Yeah.
So surrounding myself with uh, people that have kids my age, they're two parents. They're they're grinding, most of them. They're balancing time with work and their kids, and they're frustrated, and they can't do all the things that they want to do um, with their kids or in their personal life or whatever. And I see it time after time after time, and people go, oh, if you could have done it differently, would you have? And I don't think I would have, because now I've got all the time. Uh, I don't know if I would have been a better father or parent in my 20s or 30s. I don't think so. I think I would have been absent, like most people. They're working, they're doing their thing, they've got babysitters, they're out of town. And I choose not to. I could, but
Yeah.
you're just in a different mindset as you get older.
Well, what would you tell maybe the young entrepreneurs or maybe
Mm-hmm.
creators who are really trying to build their brand and their business? What would you tell them like what's the best foundation to lay early on without trying to rush too fast? You know, I see a lot of people trying to get ahead of themselves, especially because they see things on social media. What foundation you think is the best thing to set yourself up for? Let's just say your 30s, 40s.
You have kids or no kids?
Let's do both scenarios with kids.
Balance. So yeah, so
Okay.
you've got to. I don't know. I mean, because I'm 50, I can look back and be like, I wouldn't give up. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
You're not gonna wish you made more money. You're not gonna wish that you worked one extra day. I don't know. Are you gonna wish that you painted one more painting?
No.
Yeah,
No.
right. So I would find a balance. In the earlier years, I would absorb it because they're going to go off to school and you're going to be open with all this time in the morning, right? So I would go the long game, just like in stock. Invest in your kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going to have plenty of time down the road, and spend as much time as you can with your kids before they get into school, and then you can, if you want to grind, or if that's in your soul, then that's the thing. But I've got friends now that are getting cancer or sick, or all their kids are grown up, and they're all gone, and they're my age, and they're looking at their wives and their stuff, and now their hobbies are drinking
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, um and stuff. But that's what I would do. And with kids, I mean, I wouldn't have listened to that though in my 20s or
Yeah.
30s. I was
Well,
I was driven.
all right, no
Yep.
kids. What's that scenario to set yourself up for? You're they're in their 20s, for 30s and 40s.
Well, the
What
other
would you
thing too,
do?
which I didn't do, I would have gone away to college. It's different looking back because I don't think of it like what I didn't learn, but the experience of meeting people and traveling, maybe going abroad and meeting people in other countries and opening up your mind to different ways to live and cultures and stuff like that. I would go that route. And then once that happened, I'd be open to different, trying to figure out what you enjoy. I mean, there's two different ways. There's passion, right? You find something that you love to do and you go after it.
Yeah, like whether you make money at it or
Yeah,
not,
yeah, it
just
doesn't matter.
do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
If you have a passion for something, which I didn't really have, just do it. Well, maybe my passion was freedom. I didn't want to work for anybody.
Yeah.
Like
And
work,
that's a
work.
scenario you create.
Yeah, work did not make sense. Why do I want to give you 8 hours of this day? It's precious.
Mhm.
Like to build your empire. It didn't make absolutely no sense. So for me, it was being an entrepreneur, starting something. Money gave me freedom, and that freedom meant if I didn't feel like going someplace tomorrow, if I was sick or I wanted to go on this trip, I just did it.
Yeah.
It's just going to end. I don't regret going to Cuba for a month in my 20s, or
Oh, that
going,
sounds amazing.
yeah, going to all these places for a month here and a month here every year. I mean, I traveled so much, and I love every piece of that. And I wouldn't have done that if I had kids. I wouldn't leave them. So maybe I would have done that later on. But
Yeah. Are you in a place now where you want to, impart any knowledge to people, whether it's like privately or to a group, or people who have similar passions where they can, see the numbers in a business, or in an investment or an asset, and try to make that move? Or I don't know, are you in a place where you'd want to teach in a sense, or you'd want to just impart any knowledge?
I don't know. I think individual investments, I think it's fine because I'll end up learning more. I think I always pick up more information than I knew going into an investment, like, just the different scenarios or different ideas. I can kind of see stuff though from a younger generation, what their motives are versus someone in my situation, really, that isn't. That really depends on the motives. Um, but no, I think I won't. I think, like, I never thought being a teacher interested me until I had kids.
Hmm.
And then you realize every word, every action, how you conduct yourself, you're teaching. And I never thought about it until I had kids. And you are under a microscope and you're teaching every day of your life, whether you want to or not. Hopefully, you're, because you have to be cognizant and you want to make sure that you're providing your kids, multiple experiences, opening their eyes to many things. And whether or not you like it or not, you're a teacher, right?
Yeah. I just assume I'm being watched and judged by my
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
constantly,
Yes.
whether I know it or not.
Yeah. And I'm starting to learn that with a 7-year-old,
Oh,
right? And a 5-year-old soon be. So earlier on, you're like, they don't really, you don't feel like you're being judged.
yeah,
Or
you can get away with a lot
yeah,
when
like,
they're young,
yeah, yeah,
young.
yeah.
But at some point, when you say something and look at you like that's bullshit, but
Yeah.
they can't say that.
Yeah.
I just think to myself, oh, they're on to me.
Yeah.
Like
They're
I
on.
gotta keep it
Yeah.
100% real.
Exactly. Yep.
And even moments where, assuming that my kids are watching and learning everything, so say I'm in the middle of something and they're just acting crazy, and I have a response that's louder than it needs to be, or words that are being short with them when they
Yeah.
come up to me.
Yeah.
I'll actually go back and I'll apologize
Yeah.
to them,
I do that all
and
the
I'll
time.
say like, guys, I'm sorry. I should not have talked to you like that, or I should
Yeah.
not have, yelled. I should have actually said, hey, just give me a moment to finish this to clear my head.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, cool, whatever. Like this,
Yeah.
they respond like they don't care, but I know
Yeah.
they're learning
Exactly. Yeah.
everything. And I hope they would learn that, hey, when you make a mistake, just go say something like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You find yourself, there's this guilt. Like I never had guilt. And you experience guilt when you have children, because whether or not how you talk to them or your response, like I never wanted to be that dad that responded because I said so, right? You might tell your child, hey, you got to wear shorts, or you can't wear shorts today. Why? They can't, and so you're all, so yeah, just going through that process of being cognizant of how you behave in front of your children is so important. At least to me. So, but then again, I grew up on the streets riding my bike with a single mom, and I was okay. So you're constantly, I don't know if you're judging, but you're looking at how other people are playing their life game, and you look at it and sometimes you say, oh, I wouldn't do that way in my head. I'm going to do it this way or that way. My mom just he's like, be home when the lights come on.
Yeah.
Like I was gone all day. I raised myself. But so
I mean, it's just, you just got to do your best.
Yeah.
And that is in everything,
Yeah.
Not trying to get everything done, all your dreams accomplished in a year. Do your best, do what you can with your kids. Just, you can read every parenting book, but then even then, just do your best with what you have.
Exactly. Yep.
So, man, well, I appreciate you so much. I don't tell you enough. We always have these like random check-ins.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, last time.
Well, why don't you start now?
No, hell yeah, I'll start now. No, but you're like the most unassuming, successful person I know. Now I say this because there's a myth that if you're successful, you have to like look and act a certain way.
Sure.
And I remember one time we were doing this paint class here
Yep.
at the studio, and you rolled up in like your Jeep and you were skateboarding up to the door with a Bud Light in your hand. And I was like, that's the level I want to get at.
Yeah.
That freeness, that freedom, that like, I don't know, what would you describe that as?
Just honesty. I think in my 30s, I had all the nice cars. I thought it was important. I had, whether it was a Mercedes or a Range Rover or whatever. And people even nowadays are like, well, what do you drive? And they're like in their 40s, and I'm just like, I got a Volkswagen, or I got a Jeep, or whatever.
Yeah.
But earlier on, we're concerned about how we appear to other people. You've had all these nice cars.
I was victim to all of that.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, you want people to, I guess, or you think success equals this. Like, and if it's an appearance or if it's a car or whatever, nothing against great cars. It's just how do you want to be perceived or whatever. And I like the other way, which is I can drive a piece of shit truck, right? Or it doesn't matter. Like I've got kids.
The kids are going to tear the car up anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I keep using that. Like every time I'm, I might buy something nice here soon, or maybe not. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of fun not to give a shit about personal possessions. I think it just comes with time. There's nothing wrong with all that great stuff, and you can't take it with you, right? The money, you might as well spend it or save it or do something good or whatever. Then you might, if buying a new car. But the other thing, sometimes I buy new stuff, and then it's not resentment, but I got to worry about it. It like becomes like something in my head, like if it scratches or the kids spill like, a drink in there or whatever, it can cause stress or, why?
Yeah. My most reliable car ever.
Bentley?
Not the Bentley.
Lamborghini?
Not the Lamborghini. It was a 2005 Chevy Express van.
Yeah.
Maybe 2008.
Yeah.
That thing never broke down on me. And honestly, the only reason why we ended up getting rid of it because we didn't have to take a bunch of stuff to shows anymore.
Yeah.
But that thing lasted forever.
Yeah.
And rest in peace to the Chevy Express van.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the most practical thing, and it was the most dependable.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of guys now too, their kids are gone and they're midlife crisis, they call it, or maybe that happened already, but now they're all buying these
I went through my midlife crisis early on.
Yeah. So they're all buying the nice sports cars. I love to look at them, but since I've got young kids, I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with trashing them. But.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as long as you understand what comes with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that one, it's not needed.
Oh, and two, I hate the attention. I had a Maserati for a little bit, back when the recession first hit. And I was 30 maybe, and people are asking me, "Oh, what do you do?" Or I felt bad. Like I don't want that. Like I don't like attention.
Well, if you ever want attention, walk around with paint on your clothes, and random people will just come up to you and say, hey, "You've got a little paint on you," or they'll say, "Can you paint a mural in my daughter's room?" Or "I need a quote to paint my house," and I'll give them a quote. I won't show up. I don't, because I don't paint houses. Yeah. But if anyone out there is lacking attention, walk around with paint on you. You'll get all the attention that you want and don't want.
Yeah. So I think the attention part was part of it.
Yeah, man. Well, I just want to say thank you.
Yep, absolutely,
for doing this. You're my first official in-person guest. Okay. I don't know what order we'll air it in, but thanks for rolling the dice. I know my mom's listening.
Hey, Mom. So,
good to see you. At least my mom.
It's nice seeing you at Kiss. Oh, and the birthday party.
But we definitely got to do this again. And thank you for just always supporting and just, always being there for me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, buddy. Love you.
All right, brother.